Hey everybody, it's Jason Caluori.
It's Donnie here.
We're here for a Stealth Streams live training. We have a very special guest named Jack. And today we're going to be talking about, you can see it on the screen, link building. And Jack, he lives in the UK. They have a big operation. Jack, you guys build 6,000 to 12,000 backlinks a month, right? Like you guys are doing a lot of backlink building, have a lot of data, and we've got a lot of even case studies to get into today on results.
Yeah, we build a huge number of links on a monthly basis for an array of different clientele. We're fortunate enough that SEO can apply to any website. So it's fantastic for us because our client portfolio is huge and very, very diverse from a number of different industries and different topics. So it is fantastic to be able to share it with you, and hopefully I can give some good insights from data we've collected over the last 8 years of running as a link building agency.
Thanks for getting on to do this presentation too. People are going to find this really valuable. Donothan, is there anything you'd like to share before we get into this?
No, I mean, the biggest thing is that you guys have been around since 2017, I believe it is. You've helped over 18,000 clients at this point in time. You guys are very white hats when we're talking about longevity, when we're looking at creating strategies that will withstand all the Google updates and things like that. You guys are really heavily focused on that. And so that's one of the reasons we wanted to bring Jack and his team in here today, because obviously Jason and I have our sites and we can do strategies on our sites, and they work sometimes they don't work, but we don't have the data. We don't have the industry data like you guys have, Jack. And so for our members, I wanted to bring you in here because you have insights that just a single marketer will never have, just because we're not building at the level that you guys are building. And so I think this will help offer a lot of you who are just getting started link building some insights into what strategies you can utilize to build long term, and some things to think about that a lot of marketers aren't talking about, from like, when should you start link building and what could actually hurt your site if you start link building too fast or too aggressively. So I'm excited to have you here today, Jack, and thank you once again for being able to come in and show our members some great insights.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, Jack. So you can just take over and get started if you're ready.
Yeah, so obviously, thanks so much for Jason and Donnie having me on this webinar here. I'll give you hopefully a good insight into an introduction into link building if you've never link built before. If you have link built before, hopefully you will learn something. To give you again a quick intro into myself, I'm the operations director and head of client success at Rhino Rank, and as Donnie has mentioned, we've been around for 8 years, since 2017, since our two co-founders set up Rhino Rank. We have helped a countless number of agencies and direct businesses and freelancers and affiliate marketers drive rankings and drive organic traffic to their site using consistent and effective link building strategies. I myself have 6 years of experience in the industry. Previous to this, I was actually a teacher, so a complete jump in industries and jump in career, but I'm absolutely loving this experience in SEO and this development in learning per se. I'd like to think I have a very good understanding of the valuable linking factors that can influence ranking algorithms. Again, like I say, I've worked with countless clients and helped them develop strategies to target maybe specific pages or target specific keywords within SEO and try and help them see the results they want to see. It's not always possible. Some things that are very, very difficult and very challenging, but we like to see fantastic results, and we're relatively good at that. We will move on to the first part. So what is link building? So a quick definition in this. Link building is the process of acquiring hyperlinks from other websites to yours. So what we're essentially trying to achieve is we want other websites to link to you. This is absolutely crucial for any element of SEO. We're using these links to essentially develop this sense of popularity and sense of authority, proving that your site is credible and becoming more authoritative. A quick makeup of a link, if you're not familiar with this, there's essentially three or two parts to this link. So we have the opening and the closing of the end of closing of a hyperlink. So we have the A and the /A part. This opens up the link, allows you to create a hyperlink to another site, or again, another site to create a hyperlink to you. We have the href tag. So this is the linking URL to the site we want to link to. So again, I've used an example for Rhino Rank to our curated links page. And then Rhino Rank here, this is the anchor text, or the visible text that a user clicks on. So if I take an example, if you're reading an article on Forbes and you're scrolling through the article and you see a a highlighted piece of text that is in blue, it could be underlined, and it leads to another website. That's a hyperlink. And if you were to inspect the source code of that link, that is typically what you're going to find. There's a couple of other things that you might see. You might see something that's known as a rel tag. That could be rel no follow or rel no referrer or no opener. These are essentially directives for, in certain instances, Google's crawlers or other crawlers of other tools. But we won't touch on that today. We won't possibly touch on it later. But that's the typical makeup of a link. That's typically what you're going to find. Why link building is important. Now, this is a really crucial thing to understand, because when we think about SEO as a whole, there's several different elements. We can consider the likes of on-page SEO, technical SEO, content, and then we have link building. Link building is crucial. And again, this is something that we found over the last 8 years of link building. In showing Google that you're an authority, you're a popularity within your specific industry. Now, if we were to take two sites within a specific industry and their on-page SEO was very, very similar, they're both optimized well, their technical SEO was good, and their content was good, it was serving the purpose or serving what that searcher was looking for. The next big difference is going to be their link portfolio. So when we look at a link portfolio, it's crucial to understand how authoritative it is, and is it providing value? Is it proving that website is a popularity? So we've got a few points. We can say it helps to boost SEO rankings. Absolutely. It's absolutely crucial for that link portfolio to prove to Google that you're a popularity, you're an authority within your specific space. You can receive referral traffic from links as well. Again, that's a really useful thing from a link building campaign. If you have, or if you receive links from sites like Forbes, The Telegraph, really authoritative sites and news sites, you can receive referral traffic from these, which again is fantastic. That's typically not the purpose of why we link build at Rhino Rank, but you can receive referral traffic from there. It helps search engines to discover your site. Again, crawlers use links to find and index new pages. So if you have new pages on your site that hasn't been picked up by Google, hasn't been picked up by other tools, link building can help that if it's being shared, if you're having these votes of confidence from different websites. And it can also strengthen industry relationships as well. So by collaborating on content with another site, you're helping to improve your brand recognition. You're helping to improve that brand authority. Link building Google's double EAT, or their EEAT. EEAT is a really interesting almost structure that Google has released a couple of years ago. So it's their expertise, experience, authoritativeness, and trust. And you can almost use it as a kind of a Venn diagram, as I've put over here on the right-hand side. So experience is proving your experience within your specific space, within your specific area. So if we take mechanic, for example, if that mechanic is regularly posting about jobs that they've completed or their experience over the last 20 years of being a mechanic, that's proving that this person, this site, this domain has relevant experience, has the suitable experience to provide fantastic content to searchers. Expertise, again, that's very, very similar. Are you an expert in your field? Has that person been around for a year? Has that person been around for 20 years? If you've been around for 20 years, you're typically going to be more of an expert in your field than somebody that has only been in the field for a year, let's say. Authoritativeness. This is typically link building. And this is why it is so crucial. When we think about authoritativeness, we're thinking about how much, again, of an authority you are within your space. Are you receiving these organic votes of confidence, this sense of popularity from other sites linking to you? And that's absolutely crucial. And trustworthiness is the final of the four. So can people trust your site? Is your site secure? Is it providing accurate data? Is it credible? Do you have reviews active on your site? What are your reviews like on places like Trustpilot, Google reviews? And all of these four things help to improve essentially your SEO. And not only that, but it helps to improve your, again, sense of trust, your sense of authority, your expertise, your experience. And it proves to Google that you should be ranked higher. You should be able to present your content to searchers. It can help you rank higher. Why do we consider EAT for link building? And again, it boils down to that authoritativeness. Authority is all about the links that you're receiving from different places, from other websites linking to you. again, I've used the word crucial quite a few times, but this is something we see day in, day out, and something I've seen day in, day out for the last 6 years of working with Rhino Rank. When I consider clients that don't have a link portfolio against their competitors that do have a link portfolio, it's really easy to see why their clients are ranking much higher. And that purely is because they have an established link portfolio. They have already proved to Google that they are an authority within their space. They're a popularity within their space. If you take an example of children in a playground, for example, if you have one person that has 5 friends and another person that has 50 friends, that one person that has 50 friends, you're going to say straight away is more popular, and you'd probably be you'd probably want to be associated more so with the person that has 50 friends than the person that has 5 friends. Obviously, as adults, we probably see the difference of that right now. But when you consider that, straight away you start to understand typically how Google is going to think when we consider authoritativeness. Google is going to want to see these sites that typically have a greater sense of authority. They have more referring sites linking to them because they can prove that they are more of popularity within their space. What is safe link building? Now, this is really interesting, because what I don't want you guys to think I'm saying here is I want you to link build for the sake of link building, because that's exactly what I don't want you to do. Your link building has to serve a purpose, and I kind of touch on that in a little bit. But the most crucial thing for link building as a whole is it has to make sense. When we think about Google's views on link building, if we consider Google's webmaster guidelines, they actively tell you not to purchase links. And it might sound crazy for a link building specialist or a person from a link building agency to tell you Google doesn't like people buying links. And again, it's going to sound slightly ridiculous, but your link building has to make sense. If something doesn't make sense to Google, especially with their Penguin algorithm related to link building, they're likely going to ignore the links. So for us, that's absolutely crucial at Rhino Rank, because if I mention the mechanic again, if we take the mechanic as an example, if we're building links for a mechanic, we want the links to be relevant to the automotive industry, or fixing a car, or having an MOT for your car, or having a service. And the reason for that is Google needs to ensure that any links that are added to an article are providing value to the searcher or to the reader. Now, if we're building a link for a mechanic and we go and link an article to do with lawn maintenance, straight away it makes no sense whatsoever for the link to be there, and Google again is likely going to ignore that link. So the most crucial part is your link building has to make sense. The next point is maintaining a natural anchor text distribution. Now, I've already mentioned what an anchor text is before in the makeup of a link, but again, this is really important. When we look through Google's webmaster guidelines, they discuss that they don't like anchor text that are the exact match of a ranking keyword. So if we take the mechanic as another example, if he wants to rank for car MOT or car service, we wouldn't use that term as the anchor text. So we wouldn't use that term as the clickable text of the link. And the reason for that is Google can see that if you have a large percentage of exact match anchors in your anchor text portfolio, they'll deem that as an aggressive link building tactic. Again, we don't want Google to believe that we are trying to manipulate rankings from link building. Intentionally, what we'd like to do, we want to try and improve your authority. We want to develop your popularity per se. We want to do it as safely as possible. And if you start building a huge percentage of exact match anchors to your site, you're going to prove to them that you are being far too aggressive. The next point is in relation to sudden spikes of links and building links organically over a set period of time. Now, in certain instances, having a huge number of links straight away can be natural. If we take a website that gets mentioned in national news, for example, they're going to receive a huge number of links from very high authority sites. That's perfectly natural. Google would appreciate that because this site is being mentioned for something that's being shared all over the nation, for example. But if you have a site that hasn't been mentioned in the news and you go and build 100 to 200 links, for example, within the space of a week, that could likely be picked up because you're not being mentioned in these very, very high authority sites, and it's not something that is newsworthy per se. So again, Google's probably going to pick up on that. So the crucial thing for us at Rhino Rank, and typically what we recommend to any client, whether they wish to build with us or whether they wish to build with a different agency, is try and build consistently over a set period of time. So let's say 6 to 12 months, for example. And the reason for that is we want to prove to Google that we're growing in authority and popularity consistently. We're regularly receiving these organic votes of confidence to say, I'm becoming an expert in my space. I'm becoming an authority. I deserve to rank higher. I'll be honest, you're probably going to get bored of me saying developing popularity, not authority, but these are two key parts of link building we need to consider. The next point is in relation to using the diverse mix of links, a diverse mix of link sources. And again, this is really important. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. So don't just go and build citation links, or don't just go and build directory links or high grade PR links, for example. It's important to have a diverse range of sites linking to you and the types of links. So you might have text links in existing articles. You might have brand new articles that are posted towards your site. You might have high authority news articles linking to you. When we consider a natural link portfolio, that's fantastic. That's what we want to see. And that's typically what Google is going to expect to see. A range of sites linking to you and a mix of types of links linking to you as well. I've kind of already touched on the next point where I say link to the page that adds value to the content. It has to make sense. So if we're talking about an article from a mechanic and the article is all to do with why you need to get your car serviced, we would likely want to link to the page for that mechanic that is in reference to him offering car services. And the reason for that is that is the page that makes most sense to be in that article. And it is the page that offers the most value to the searcher, to the reader. Is it solving their query? Is it solving their problem? If it isn't, it probably doesn't make sense. If you're linking to the homepage, again, that's perfectly fine because you're allowing that person to then make a decision on where they want to travel. But if we're on an article to do with car services and we're linking to the mechanics page to do with a brake fluid, for example, it kind of makes sense, but not as much as we would like it to. So again, really consider that. Which page adds value to the content? We can go from there. In terms of things to avoid, I've kind of already touched on bulk links, receiving a huge number of links from one source in a very short period of time, but try and avoid marketplaces that you're not too familiar with. Fiverr is one of them. You can consider that. There are some fantastic services on Fiverr, but be sure that they are going to meet safe practices with link building. So as I've already mentioned, are they going to give you a diverse mix of links? Are they going to consider anchor text distribution? Again, that is absolutely crucial. And are the links going to make sense? Are they going to consider how well a link is built within content in terms of it being relevant? So again, taking the mechanic as an example, is that link relevant to the content surrounding it? I've already touched on excessive exact match anchor text. So again, be really cautious with that. In some instances, they're great for driving value, but we would only use them on a small percentage. And again, link building for the sake of link building, it has to have purpose. Don't just link build because somebody's told you to link build. This presentation isn't for me to tell you to go and link build right away. There are going to be instances where you shouldn't actually link build, depending on the age of your site, depending on how authoritative your site currently is, what content you already have on there. Don't just link build for the sake of link building. That's really, really important. Link building methods. So there's a few link building methods, and we at Rhino Rank, we touch on a couple, but I'll try and touch on more than that. So niche edits or curated links, as we like to call them, are essentially links that are built within existing content. So as I've kind of mentioned with the mechanic, if we find an article relevant to having your car serviced, we would look to get a link secured for our mechanic within that article. And the reason for that is that article has already had a chance to develop its own authority. It's already had a chance to develop its own sense of popularity per se. So as soon as Google can see the link in that article, value can start to be passed because Google is seeing that article is essentially allowing the searcher to continue their journey of trying to answer their question by following that link. It's a fantastic way for driving value in terms of improving your rankings as well, because again, that article has already had a chance to develop its own sense of authority. Guest posting is the next one. Guest posting is very similar to niche edits or curated links in the sense that we're looking to have a link built within content. We want a text link built in content, and it has to be relevant. But the difference here is that you would have a brand new article created for you. So instead of looking for an existing article, we're going to create a brand new article for you. This is a really useful way of building what we would call topical authority, because that article is going to typically be very, very relevant to the link that we want to build. So if we're talking again about car services, we would look to have an article built that is purely about car services. Or if we're looking at lawn maintenance company, for example, and it's for a spring cut to get your grass green for the rest of the year, that would be the type of topic we would follow for the article. We want to build that topical authority, and that's really going to help prove to Google that people are using your site as a source of relevant information for their searchers, for their readers. So that's really, really important. Press releases and PR links. Now, these are the types of links that are going to be really, really high on authority and are fantastic links to receive, because they're going to prove to Google that you're being mentioned in these really very well established domains. So to receive a link from these sites is fantastic. There's also a good chance that you might receive referral traffic from these sites. So if we think about very established brands in the insurance industry, let's say, and they receive an article or a link from the likes of Forbes or the BBC or Business Insider, there's a good chance they might actually receive leads from these websites because people are actually going to view them, which again is fantastic. So if you can receive a couple of links from these types of sites, it's definitely worth it. It also helps to boost your brand authority and visibility. Again, if you can improve your visibility within your space, you're improving your expertise within your industry. When we consider citations, business directories, this is something that is really useful for the start of a campaign and definitely the foundation of a link portfolio, and more specifically towards local businesses. So if we take the mechanic as an example, or a lawn maintenance company, these are fantastic links for them to start a link building journey, because it's going to help essentially Google notice that they're receiving links from different places. It's also going to help them be found in these different directories. And just to get started, this is really, really important. So for local SEO, it's fantastic. When we also consider things like Google My Business can be helped with the likes of citations and business directories. So that's another thing to consider. Google updates. Now, in the industry, these are typically feared, but it's really important to understand how to navigate them. Funnily enough, I had a podcast with an SEO expert last week, and his take on Google updates was really, really interesting. And it's kind of one we typically try to follow here at Rhino Rank. You almost need to follow the mindset that you are always under a Google update. If you are trying to use tactics or strategies that are typically against Google's guidelines, or that Google doesn't typically agree with, then you're typically going to have to be worried about Google updates. You're likely always going to panic when you see a Google update is rolled out. You're going to expect fluctuations within your rankings. But if you try and approach your SEO as if you are always under a Google update, you follow safe practices, both in your entire SEO campaign as well as link building, you typically don't need to worry. And the main reason for that is Google is going to appreciate your site. You'll know you're going to typically be safe in that instance. Yes, you might see fluctuations in rankings. Typically everyone does. And in some of the case studies I'll show you later, that's something we'll actually see, because a lot of the case studies for our clients, they've actually seen fluctuations over the last month or so following the March core update. If we consider how Google updates actually impact link building, their core updates are typically looking to prioritize quality over quantity. So are the links we're building of a good quality? Are they relevant? Are they from sites that are real? Are they from sites that are genuine? And when we consider their spam updates, typically they're smaller updates. These spam updates are, I've got down here, penalize manipulative, low quality links. And that does apply in certain instances. But the thing we have to consider after that is the Penguin algorithm. Now, Google released the Penguin algorithm many years ago, and it's a fantastic algorithm that is essentially designed to look at your link portfolio and look at the links that are built towards your site. And what it essentially does is it looks at a link and says, do I like it? Do I not like it? If it likes your link, fantastic. It will allow value to be passed. It's going to agree with why that link should be there. If it dislikes a link, it's probably going to ignore it. It's not going to give you any value, but it's not going to penalize you for that. The only instance where you would likely be penalized from link building is if you have a huge number of let's say, spammy links or links that are not abiding to Google's webmaster guidelines or are not safe links. So they're not relevant, they're from sites that aren't real, they're not genuine, or the links, as I've already mentioned, simply don't make sense. They don't make sense to be where they are, and that is absolutely crucial. So I wouldn't typically worry too much about being penalized for link building, unless you are doing something that you definitely shouldn't be. Penguin kind of saves you in that instance. So again, you probably don't need to worry too much about Google updates from a link building perspective. And again, as I've mentioned below, that the best practice is to stay safe, consistently acquire high quality natural links. So ensure that you're receiving links from genuine and real sites, ensure those links are relevant. Don't avoid over optimization specifically to your anchor text and specifically to your URLs as well. That's something that we'll touch on later in terms of considering your link portfolio, and diversify your link sources to avoid reliance on one method. So don't just work with niche edits, don't just work with guest posts, make sure you have a diverse range of types of links linking to you. So the next really interesting part of this is how to actually create a campaign. Now, I typically tend to look at a tool called Ahrefs. Now, this is a tool that some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not have ever heard of it, but it's very similar to the likes of Mars, SEMrush, Ubersuggest, Majestic in terms of looking at data that can influence an SEO campaign. These tools are fantastic for informational purposes, but always take them with a pinch of salt. The most accurate data you're likely going to receive is from either Google Search Console or from Google Analytics. But for an agency, these tools are brilliant because you don't always have access to tools like Google Analytics and Google Search Console, because clients might not want to share that data. So for us, it's brilliant for us to understand where a client's current link portfolio is at, how can we improve this current link portfolio, and what are the next steps we can take over, let's say, the next 12 months. So the first thing you're going to do is audit your existing link portfolio. The way we're going to do that is consider your current referring domain. So a referring domain is just a domain that is linking to you. So as we've already mentioned, if you get a link from another site and it links to you, that would be a referring domain. The difference between a referring domain and a backlink, just a quick piece of information, is a referring domain will only count one link. Now, if you have 15 links from one website, that would essentially count to 15 backlinks, but you would still only have one referring domain. A referring domain is just counting that one link from that website. So it's just a unique number. The reason we want to consider your current link portfolio is to identify your strengths and weaknesses. And that's really important. If I consider just the size of a link portfolio, the graph I have on the right-hand side is giving us a breakdown of the number of, the percentage of links that fall between specific brackets. Now, DR is typically a vanity metric. It essentially tries to give an authority score for sites. And typically, the higher that authority score, the more authoritative that site is, the likely it is to be ranking higher. When we look at a link portfolio, we kind of want it to follow a similar pattern to the graph I have on the right. We want the largest percentage to typically be DR 0 to 10 or authority score 0 to 10. And the reason for that is that's typically going to be the largest percentage of sites available on the internet. The smallest percentage of sites are going to be those really high authority sites like Forbes, Telegraph, BBC that are going to be DR 91 to 100. This is what I would typically classify as an organic link portfolio. The largest percentage would be on the lower scale, and it's almost dropping gradually towards that top end. So the smallest percentage would be on the top end. That's typically what we would look for in a client's link portfolio, and that's where we would want to get them. When we consider an anchor text portfolio, so these are the anchor texts that have already been used within your link portfolio, the most common type of anchor text we would expect to see would be your brand name. And the reason for that is the first stage of link building would be to develop your brand authority. So if we take the mechanic as an example, if the mechanic's brand name is Southampton Mechanics, then the first anchor text we would typically see would be Southampton Mechanics. And again, the main reason for that is we want to build brand authority to begin with in a campaign. When we also consider the most organic type of link or the most natural link, that would be a link to the homepage. using the brand name. So if we're not actually thinking about an active link building campaign and somebody comes along and they just want to naturally recommend a company that they have worked with, so if we take Aviva as I've got in my example, so they've maybe purchased car insurance from Aviva and they want to recommend them to their readers, they are most likely to link to the homepage using the brand name. So for Google, it's the most organic type of link. So it makes sense for us to follow that. Again, as I mentioned earlier, link building typically has to make sense. And when we start a campaign and throughout a campaign, if we follow something for 12 months, we would always include links to the homepage with the brand name. We would also include links to the homepage with the domain name. So as we can see, we've got aviva.co.uk as the third one. For me, this is a fantastic branded link portfolio. They're going to likely have some what we call partial anchor text in there as well, and they're also likely going to have some exact match anchor text, their specific keywords in there, but the largest percentages are for their brand name. And for me, that is a fantastic link portfolio, proving to Google that they're an authority and they have an organic link portfolio because they have those natural recommendations from different sites. Now, if you want to go and have a look at your link portfolio, you want to see maybe how established it is, how many referring domains you currently have, what sort of split do you have in terms of authority scores, you can typically use tools like Ahrefs or Majestic. Majestic is another very good one. Majestic allows you to see a metric called trust flow and citation flow. Trust flow is very similar to Ahrefs to Yarn. Citation flow is fantastic for looking at page authority, but they also allow you to see the topic of that site, so you can see how relevant your link portfolio is, which is a really, really useful metric. You can also consider the likes of Moz or SEMrush as well if you prefer those tools, but it's definitely worth considering your current link portfolio before starting a campaign, and it's something that we do for every client at Rhino Rank. The next step of creating your campaign is understanding your goals, so what you want to achieve. So once we have an understanding of how developed their link portfolio is or how undeveloped their link portfolio is, we can say, okay, well, if this is your goal, what are the next steps for us? We need to understand, do you just want to increase authority? Do you want to boost specific keyword rankings? So are you ranking position 5 currently for a target keyword and you want to get to position 3? Or do you just want to diversify your current link portfolio? So maybe you've only ever had links that are niche edit. So do you need now guest post and citation links, for example? So understanding your goal is crucial. The next thing we want to do is understand where we want to link to as part of that goal. So if we just want to develop authority, because maybe at the start of a link building campaign, I'll be honest, you're probably just going to link build to the home page. We probably wouldn't consider sub-page links or deeper links to begin with. And the main reason for that is, again, we want to prove to Google that you're growing organically. We want to prove to Google that you're developing as a sense of authority within your space before we start linking to these other pages that are providing typically more relevant information. We just want organic recommendations to begin with. If you have a link portfolio that is already maybe relatively well established, then we consider some of those deeper page links, because again, that link is going to make the most sense in terms of a recommendation. The most organic type of link is that homepage link. That's what we're going to have in terms of a recommendation. But if we want to really drive value to a specific page or to a specific keyword, we're likely going to want to rank to maybe a blog article that provides fantastic value to the article that we're receiving a link from. If it's an article to do with why you should have your car serviced, maybe it could be a link to an article to do with how often should you have your car serviced. So it's providing almost that extra sense of value to that article. Is answering the next question, which again, Google absolutely loves. So you are able to answer that next question. Are you able to answer that problem or solve that problem for the searcher? In terms of implementing that scalable strategy, again, that's crucial. Once we've understood your goal, we can then say, okay, where do we go from here? Do we just go with the homepage and focus on brand name to build authority? And then can we gradually target specific pages and focus on specific keywords? Or can we go there straight away? So depending on the size of your link portfolio, how many referring domains you have, how well established is it, we can typically decide on how to create that strategy. And any link building company can do this. I keep saying we, and I don't want you to think I'm just talking about Rhino Rank. Any link building company should be able to help you develop a strategy. Any link building company should be able to help you set specific goals based on where your current link portfolio is at, and typically what you want to achieve as well. And that's really, really important, because you're going to have your own goals. You're going to say to yourself, oh, I want to rank position 3 for this keyword, or I want to start receiving organic traffic for this page. So if we have an understanding of that goal, if somebody has an understanding of that goal, they can start to help you implement that scalable strategy. In terms of how you can start to track results and your expectations for a specific period, the first thing I want to say, and I've kind of touched on it already, is ensure that your link building campaign is consistent. If we consider somebody going to the gym, for example, if this person goes to the gym once or twice a week, but only does it every 3 weeks, they're likely not going to see fantastic results. If we then take another person that goes to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, they're really targeted with the exercises they're doing, and they go every week for 6 months, they're going to see fantastic results. Well, you'd like to think fantastic results. And the main reason for that is because they've been consistent. And that's what we tend to see with link building. And again, I'll show you that on the case studies in a moment. But if you can consistently show Google that you're growing your popularity and authority over a specific period of time, that is really important, because you're proving to them that you're regularly receiving organic recommendations from different domains. They're giving you their vote of confidence, which is absolutely crucial. Now, for the first 3 months, again, if we're talking about somebody that hasn't link built before, they don't really have a link portfolio, this is going to be for foundational link building. You might see some improvements in the total number of ranking keywords. If you see improvements in the positions of ranking keywords, fantastic, that's great, but we typically don't expect it. But that's really for us to start to build your brand authority. Within 6 months, we would like to see your authority has developed a good amount, and we would also like to see, again, an improvement in the total number of ranking keywords. And definitely we would like to see, we can't always see, but we would like to see an improvement in specific positions for rankings as well. So if we have target keywords, we would like to see those positions increasing. Now, again, this is going to depend on how we're approaching the link building campaign. Are we now targeting specific pages and keywords, or are we still just focusing on the homepage and brand name? After 12 months, we would like to see that a really well-established development in authority, and we'd also like to see some improvement in organic growth, so specifically organic traffic, because you've had plenty of time to prove to Google that you've developed in authority, you've developed in popularity, and you should start to be ranking higher. Absolutely. Obviously, there's other considerations we have to take into mind, such as on-page SEO, technical content. Are these all up to par? If we consider 2 sites, for example, one site has fantastic on-page technical content, and the other site that is link building doesn't have on-page SEO that is well optimized. The technical isn't as great, their content isn't as great. Their link building probably isn't going to do a huge amount, because they're going to struggle to compete with the site that is really well optimized. If you're on par, as I've already mentioned, link building can really help. Link building can be the answer to help you improve your rankings. In terms of how to measure your results, I've kind of already mentioned this in terms of the number of keywords your site is ranking for. Is your ranking position for target keywords improving? Has your organic traffic improved? We can also consider typical vanity metrics such as domain rating, authority score, and domain authority from the tools such as Ahrefs, SEMrush, and Moz. Whilst Google typically doesn't look at these metrics, they are fantastic for seeing how much you've improved in authority. Again, take them with a pinch of salt. Don't use them as gospel, but they can be really, really useful for you to understand how you're improving, how you're developing an authority. I'll touch quickly on how we can help as a company. So I've kind of already given you an understanding on the things that definitely we consider at Rhino Rank in terms of how do we consider your current link portfolio? How do we help you strategize a campaign to ensure that you're growing organically, you're growing safely? Again, that's absolutely crucial. But for us, building safe, contextual, high quality links is absolutely crucial. We have a vetting process to ensure that any link that we build is contextually relevant. That's typically the most important factor that we've seen when it comes to link valuation. Does it make sense? Again, I'm saying it again, but does that link make sense to be there? Is it contextually relevant within that content? Again, we can offer those custom strategies tailored to your industry, tailored to your goals. So if you're in the fitness industry, for example, we're going to be looking for those links that are going to help you improve your specific authority, your specific rankings relevant to the fitness industry. It wouldn't make sense for us to build a link for a fitness industry site on a site or in a page, to do with lawn maintenance. Again, it doesn't make sense. We also have dedicated account managers as well that can help with your campaign. So if you did want to work with us, we have a team of account managers that can have monthly meetings with you, they can have monthly goals with you to ensure that we're helping you as best as we can to meet the goals you have set, to help you strategize a campaign that works as well as we would hope it would. I'll go through some case studies. I've nattered on for a good while, but hopefully some case studies will really help. So I've got 6 case studies to share with you. You'll all notice that they typically tend to have this drop off at the right-hand side. I'm putting that down to the Google core update in March. Everyone is typically seeing fluctuations. And again, this data is from Ahrefs. Now, as I've already mentioned, take this data with a pinch of salt. Ahrefs is fantastic for informational purposes, but it's not always accurate. So it's really useful for us to gauge how well a client is improving, but we also need to consider that this is typically estimated data. It's not completely accurate. So what you're typically looking at here is in the top graph, you have the orange line, which is organic traffic, and you have the blue line, which is referring domains. So blue line, the referring domains, that's a number of unique domains that are linking to them. So as we've link built with them, that's their consistent growth of referring domains. That's their consistent growth of unique domains now linking to them. So the first case that I have on the left-hand side is an automotive company we've been working with since January 2024. Based in the UK, and their average budget is around about £5,000 per month. We typically build anywhere from 40 to 50 links with them on a monthly basis, and their campaign has been very, very targeted. And the reason for that is they already had a really well-established link portfolio. As you can see, the starting point on the left is just under 600. So for us, whilst we did link build to the homepage, we can also link build to service pages and blog pages because their link portfolio is really well established. And you can see they've seen fantastic results if we take the starting point in Jan 2024 to where they are now. The case study we have on the right-hand side is a services company. They're based in the US. They have a very, very big budget. Not all of our clients have budgets this large of $10,000 to $15,000 per month. They started with us in July 2023. The company set up a couple of months before this, so they were brand new and they wanted to drive hard with link building. They put a lot of work into one-page SEO and technical SEO and content, regularly getting themselves out there in other elements of link building. So they've also used high-level PR, they've also used guest posting, but they were building with us anywhere from 100 to 200 links on a monthly basis, so a huge number of links. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, that might seem a bit crazy to have a large number of links on a monthly basis, but they've kept that sustainable. They've done that on a monthly basis. It's been consistent, and Google has clearly seen that they've developed an organic authority within that specific industry. Let's move on to the next case studies. So the one on the left-hand side is a residential services company. They started with us in November 2024. They're based in the UK, and they've got a typical budget of around about $500 per month or £500 a month. They only build 8 links on a monthly basis, but they've seen relatively good results. Again, we've got that drop-off on the right-hand side of that graph. Again, I'm typically putting that down to the Google core update, but we've seen some brilliant results for them. On the right-hand side, we've got a SaaS provider. They're actually based in Australia. The beauty of Rhino Rank and again of SEO is we can work with typically anybody, so we can work all over the world. We've been working with them since November 2021. I couldn't get the graph to go back that far. They have a smaller budget compared to some of the other ones. They have about $2,000 per month, but they're building 40 to 50 links on a monthly basis. You'll notice the difference between the company on the last slide. They're still building a similar quantity of links, but they've got a really diversified portfolio of links in terms of what they're building with us. So they've got a good mixture of grades, a good mixture of types of links, and it's helped them see some fantastic results. Now, the one on the left-hand side on this case studies page, I wanted to include this because it's quite an interesting case study. Now, we started working with this company in June 2023, and they were a brand new company. They'd only been set up a few months, and we were only building, I would say, anywhere from 10 to 15 links with them on a monthly basis. They stopped with us in February 2024. They wanted to pursue PPC, and they didn't want to link build anymore. And you can see in April 2024, their organic traffic started to drop. And the reason for that is, whilst their link building did plateau and it slightly increased, that's that must be with somebody different because they're not link building with us anymore. They're consistently, definitely dropped off. They weren't consistently link building. Diversity of their link portfolio wasn't as well diversified as it should have been, and they probably were too targeted with their anchor text as well. So it's interesting to see that whilst they were working with us, again, we had a very diversified portfolio, very diversified strategy with them. They saw some brilliant results as it started to improve. Then they stopped. They didn't follow a similar strategy. They haven't seen great results. And then the last case study I have for you is a finance company we have over in the US. They have anywhere from $500 to $600 per month, and they build anywhere from 6 to 8 links on a monthly basis as well. They started with us in November 2020, just seen a bit of a lull in their organic traffic, but they've seen a fantastic spike from consistently link building. I'll be honest with you, this doesn't happen for everybody. And I want to be honest because I don't want you to think that you're definitely going to see these results. These are some fantastic case studies I have to share. But this doesn't happen for everybody. Sometimes you can see a plateau for 6 months because the keywords you're trying to target are extremely competitive, or your competitors are just outplaying you in terms of link building and their SEO. So take again these case studies with a pinch of salt, but they can be really, really useful. That's it. I've nattered on for a good while. I hope it's been insightful. I hope it's given you some information that you can take away. If you've got any questions, I know Jason and Donnie will open that up in a moment. But again, I hope it's been useful and you can take something from it. Thank you.
No, thank you, Jack. And that was probably one of the most insightful explanations of SEO that I've heard. In being in this industry like 15 years, and when backlinking kind of like first became popular, it was just kind of like you said, people just did it because it was like everybody wasn't doing it. So as long as you had some backlinks from somewhere, you could literally just buy them and rank. And it's obviously become more strategic over time, where you actually have to have a plan. You actually have to consider where you're getting backlinks from. You have to have more diversity in your links. So yeah, I mean, I think this was great. I hope it didn't go over anybody's heads, but I think it's really important to understand the function of backlinks, not just looking at the number of backlinks, but also the function and the purpose that they're serving. So you could be very strategic in how you're going about it.
The kind of the recipe that you laid out is very great for people to come back to. We've been in the SEO industry for quite a while, and some of the stuff you've shared is kind of held to people's chests at times. They don't want to share, here's how you build anchor text or the types of links you build. So I like how you laid that all out so that people can see, hey, here's the success recipe that you use, that you guys are using too. This has been great. Thank you.
Of course. No problem at all. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, I have some questions because I think they're gonna come up before we get to like anybody's questions in the chat. But one of the first questions I have is somebody who's getting started maybe with affiliate marketing. What are things they can do to kind of ramp up their results? Because obviously no one wants to wait, right? Like people are coming online, they're looking for that gold as fast as they can. What are some things that people can do to kind of get results faster? I mean, even if it includes buying age domains to potentially have backlinks already on the site, and that way it allows them to start off more aggressively. Like, what have you seen with people who are just getting started, who are trying to build an affiliate site from scratch, essentially?
It's a great question. We've worked with quite a few affiliate people in the past, and I think the big thing, like you say, is some people have gone and purchased age domains to try and link to themselves and almost built kind of a network of sites in a sense. But definitely link building has been a big one, trying to again develop your authority, your sense of popularity within your specific industry, within that specific space. But I think what's really important is being specific. Definitely at the start of your campaign. Now, if we take, let's say, an affiliate site in the fitness industry, you could go and talk about hundreds of different topics within the fitness industry, whether it be weightlifting or running or cycling, for example. But what I've found to typically work, and I know what we as a company have typically found to work for some of our clients, is being specific to one area. And the reason for that is there are so many different keywords, so many different search terms you can try and rank for. But if you can prove to Google that you're an expert within one specific area, you're typically going to rank higher faster. And the reason for that is, again, you're proving your expertise. If we go back to the double elite at the start of my presentation, you can be really broad, but you're not proving you're an expert. you're not proving you've got any experience. Whereas if you can be specific, maybe we want to talk about running a marathon, for example. If you can talk about different tips for running a marathon, what to consider in terms of fueling, what to consider in terms of footwear, marathon socks, things along those lines, if you can provide really specific information that solves these different questions for people without being too broad, I typically tend to find that helps. I don't know if you guys have seen something similar.
Yeah, I think we've seen a similar thing too. Niching down is much more effective than trying to, I guess the alternative would be going after, running shoes and just trying to cover all running shoes.
Yeah.
But I like your idea of how you run a marathon. Maybe it's the person's first marathon and kind of building out your content to serve them. Then you're naturally going to cover those things and also kind of tackle the whole niche. And I like your idea and your whole concept of long term and focusing on months and months from now, sticking around, or you have clients that are years in the making that are still growing. So
yeah, 100%. Like you say, the one client we had, the SaaS provider, they've been with us since 2021. So in the long scheme of things, it's not massively long, but to be consistently link building for 4 years, you're clearly proving you're an authority, you're a popularity within your specific space. SEO is for the long game. When we consider the likes of SEO and PPC is fantastic for getting results and leads very, very quickly. But when people talk about SEO, you're not expecting to see results within 3 months if you're just starting. You're typically looking for those results after 12 to 24 months. So that's definitely important. Don't get me wrong, you can see results within 3 to 6 months, but the most of what you'll find is you're looking for that extended period of time, because then you're helping yourself gain consistent improvements. You're seeing consistent growth organically.
So the one question I see is essentially with backlinking, do you see different reactions from other search engines like Bing and DuckDuckGo? So like if you're primarily we've mentioned Google here today, but if you're kind of focused and honed in on Google, do you see any positive things that come from just focusing on Google and building links, or do you see things that potentially you leave out, that other search engines are looking for by only focusing on Google and not the other search engine?
It's actually a really, really good question. I think whilst I've typically spoken about Google today, the reason that you link build is to develop authority as a whole. So when you consider other search engines such as Bing and typically DuckDuckGo as well, you're improving your authority to them. So they're going to likely use very, very similar ranking algorithms to Google. Yes, Google's might be more established, and Google typically has the most searches compared to the other two. But if you're following a campaign that is organic and has a good strategy in developing a diverse link portfolio, improving your authority as a whole, it's going to typically work across the board because they're going to have a very, very similar ranking algorithm to Google. So definitely Bing, we've seen similar results. I'll be honest, we typically don't really tend to track results from other search engines like Bing or DuckDuckGo. Main reason is because we want to focus on Google results. That's typically where most people are searching. That's typically where people are seeing the best results. But we've seen similar results for clients.
And it looks like his second one says, if we have a lot of brand generic anchors, is it okay to have keyword anchor text if we keep ratios below 5%? I've had success with local SEO using keyword anchors for local, but only with healthy generic brand.
I'd completely agree with that. Definitely. Keyword anchors are really, really useful for driving specific value to certain keywords. And definitely trying to keep it below 5% is really useful. What I would say though, and this is kind of an approach that I like to take when speaking with a client about their strategy, is don't just focus on link building to a specific keyword. Because if you have a service page that ranks for 15 keywords and you only focus on that keyword, well, are you doing the other 14 keywords an injustice? Because you need to consider the relevancy of that page. How relevant is that page to what the searcher is looking for, what that reader is looking for? So think about your link building as linking to a specific page as opposed to a specific keyword. And that way, your partial anchor text, so we use typically partial anchor text as a large percentage of a link campaign, and that partial anchor text is almost a variation or a subset of an exact keyword. So if we take best blenders as an exact search term, we wouldn't typically want to use best blenders as the anchor text. We'd use something along the lines of look at different blenders, or consider a blender like this, or find the best option for you. And the reason for that is you're giving Google an idea or a suggestion as to what the link is about without directly saying to them, I want to rank for this keyword. Again, the link is there for a resource, for providing value to the searcher, not just there to improve your rankings for a specific keyword. Google's really intelligent at understanding the content surrounding a link, intelligent at understanding the content of the link itself, intelligent at understanding the actual anchor text. So we don't need to tell it what that link is for. We need to give it a suggestion, give it a hint, give it that idea of, okay, this is what the link is about. I can provide value to that page. And again, that's something really important to remember. You're not providing value to a keyword, you're providing value to that page. We're building the authority of that specific page. As we build authority of that page, that can help it improve its ranking. So try not to get too focused on specific keywords. Whilst it can be really useful for understanding your specific targets, what you want to improve the keywords for, focus on that page itself. Is that service page ranking for 15 keywords? I want to boost the keywords for all of those 15. Obviously, depending on maybe how competitive those keywords are, but that's definitely something to consider.
I had a final question. So you guys are building thousands of backlinks every month. What are you guys most excited about? What's the Rhino Rank team most excited about as we go into 2025? Maybe it's certain kinds of backlinks or trends you've seen. What gets you guys excited at the Rhino Rank company?
I think it's going to be a shift more towards links. Over the last 2 years, there's kind of been a big shift towards content, which is really, really important. And a lot of people in the industry have kind of taken their foot off the gas in link building, mainly because they've been so focused on content. But when we look at kind of the pattern over the last 10 years, let's say, normally you follow a pattern of content, link building, content, link building. And when we consider generative AI now in search results, typically to get yourself in that AI search result, you're going to want to be an authority. You want Google to understand that you're an authority in the space. And to do that, you're going to be link building. So it's going to be really interesting for us to see, how does Google now consider link building as part of their ranking algorithm? Do they hold it in more weight? Again, it's one of those things that nobody really knows. But specifically with generative AI results, how are those influenced by link building? And I think that's a really interesting thing for us to understand.
And you guys have been on the side of, let's keep this human and natural in how you run your operation. Like, instead of companies that are trying to make everything AI or fire everybody, now it's all automated, you're still building backlinks, with humans.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a team of, I would say, anywhere from 25 to 40 people in our office in the UK. And the key thing for us has been that human element. When we're vetting sites, possible sites that we would like to work with or we would outreach to for our clients, or articles that we would consider to receive a link from, AI could possibly do these tasks, but when we think about relevancy, when we think about the quality of content, when we think about our other vetting procedures in terms of, is this a real site, AI is not quite there yet. So for us, the human element is absolutely crucial. Yes, AI might be fantastic for helping you develop content, but it's not going to solve all of those problems. So definitely for us, our team is crucial. If it wasn't for our team, we wouldn't be building as many links as we do. Don't get me wrong, we might use AI in some instances to help us understand the topic of specific sites if we're working with a really specific segment of law, for example. So we might use AI to give us an understanding of that. Or if we're building a guest post, for example, we might use AI to help us create topics or foundations of articles to say this would be really relevant to one of our clients' links, relevant to this. But absolutely, without our human team, we wouldn't be able to build the links we do for our clients, and we wouldn't be able to see the results we do either.
That makes sense. I think you've done a fantastic job here today, Jack, covering so much and all the data you've shared. So thank you for your time and going through all this with us.
Of course, thank you for having me. I hope I didn't drag it on too long, and I hope I didn't mess my words up too much. But again, I hope it's been useful. And again, if anyone's got any questions, I think I've left my email on the last slide. Maybe you guys can share it, or if you've got a recording, feel free to drop me an email. And I'll do what I can to help.
I know we're past the hour, but I did have one question that I think is could be useful for people, right? Is you mentioned there's a safe way to kind of go about link building, and then there's some more black hat things that people are doing to link build. Would you recommend that people kind of have, their safe site, which they look at, building long term, and then having a separate site for testing some of the new strategies that emerge that, maybe a little bit more spontaneous, maybe a little more aggressive? Because I think testing is important. I think, anybody in this industry is going to go through a lot of testing over the years, but maybe not testing things on your safe site, if we want to call it. You have a safe site that you're trying to build in accordance with Google, and then you have other sites that maybe you're trying to, test some more aggressive strategies that may get you some short-term results. Maybe they don't get you long-term results. Maybe you test some things that maybe do have long-term implications to them, and that you can transition over to your safe site. Like, how do you balance testing strategies and also keeping your site safe, in terms of longevity? Because you also can test on your site and you can mess it up to where you can never get that site back again. And that's happened before too. If you're testing on your main site and you're doing things that eventually Google like slaps, and it's really hard to recover sites like that. So what is a safe way for people to test new emerging strategies or new tactics, but not mess up their kind of like main site?
I think exactly how you've described, having like a sub-site that you can test on, you can A/B test. If you speak to any expert within the SEO industry, probably one of their favorite things is to test, because you're allowing yourself to understand what tactics, what techniques can actually work. If we think about black hat SEO, for example, it worked for so many years. It really did. And then Google seems to have brought a hammer to it. So if you just followed black hat SEO techniques or tactics for your main site, even if we call it your safe site or your money site, as some people like to call it, and you weren't participating in safe practices at the same time, you're losing everything. And again, we've seen it with some of our clients. Some of our clients were using us for link building. They were participating in other black hat tactics, and they got absolutely smacked. And it's almost weighing up that risk in terms of mitigating risk for what can you afford to lose if you want to test this. So if you've built a site and it's purely for testing purposes, you just want to see if you can get organic traffic from trying to rank this site using this tactic. If you lose it, it doesn't really matter. Fantastic. Crack on. We would probably recommend it as well for your own knowledge, for your own understanding. And that's typically how very good SEOs become very good SEOs, because they understand what works and what works for 6 months, but then gets absolutely smacked. But trying to test on a safe site when you've worked so hard to develop this site, to reach your rankings, to receive organic traffic, you'd probably be a little bit stupid, if I'm honest, to try and do that testing. It's weighing that up, isn't it? It's mitigating that risk, because if you want to put your site at risk when you've worked so hard to get it into that position, go and put that site at risk, but it's understanding what could happen. But if it makes much more sense to maybe have another domain, okay, I'm going to try and, even if you emulate what you've done with your safe site, so you have two almost identical sites in terms of how they're set up, both on-page SEO, technical SEO, typically have the content different. But you can almost try and test on one site a black hat tactic. If it works, if it holds, maybe you apply it to this. But again, give it that time. So that's definitely something to think about. Don't just go with the testing on your safe site to begin with. Do it on a sub-site that you can afford to lose, per se.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's important just for people who are new to SEO to understand, don't do something that's going to get rid of all the hard work you've done. If you want to test, if you want to try to be more aggressive, you're trying to get fast rankings, you're trying to, maybe get fast commissions or fast traffic to your sites, try to get those early commissions to kind of fund your safe site or even just establish yourself in SEO, like make sure you have a separate site to do that. And I think it makes it more fun too, having sites that you can test and, get different results for. So, but cool. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jack, for doing this and putting this presentation together. Hopefully everybody has such a clear vision of their SEO strategy and what SEO is from the side of backlinking, because this was very thorough. I mean, it's probably, like I said, one of the most thorough presentations I've seen on backlinking. So thank you for putting this together for us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.
See you guys later.